Hi, I'm Andy Panko, owner of 10 In Financial. Welcome to Retirement Planning Demystified. This is the first of 3 videos explaining how to find a financial advisor. This first video will discuss the differences in advisor titles, regulations, and standards of care, meaning whether or not an advisor is required to act in your best interest or theirs. Unfortunately, no 2 advisors are created equal. There are advisors who work for really large national brokerage, insurance, and banking firms that you've definitely heard of and have probably seen commercials for on TV and in magazines. Or you've seen their branch offices around town. At the other end of the spectrum, there are single-person advisors who offer service and advice which is as good, if not better than, services provided by the advisors at the huge household name companies. These single-person operations may not advertise and might operate out of their homes, so you're not likely to have come across them before. But in many cases, these solo professionals provide better value than what you get from the big national names. And then there are a whole host of advisors and firms somewhere in between the behemoths and the solo shops. Many people rely on advisory referrals and recommendations from friends or family. Now, while that's definitely better than just randomly calling up an advisor and hoping for the best, you should still first learn the important things to know before starting to search for an advisor. Because even if your friends are happy with their advisor, it doesn't mean that person would be the best match for you and your needs. Plus, your friends don't know what they don't know. They could be overpaying or getting underserved by their advisor and not know it. I'm about to walk through everything you need to know in understanding the financial advisory industry so you can make a better informed decision when searching for your own advisor. Let's get going. I want to start with explaining what a financial advisor actually is. But before you look for one, you have to understand the differences between them. First, realize that a financial advisor's title means absolutely nothing. This is very different than the legal or medical professions. For example, if someone says they're a lawyer, you already know that implies they passed a standardized bar exam and are able to practice law under the regulation of one or multiple state bar associations. And most states require lawyers to have attended law school. Someone can't just walk around and say they're a lawyer without having gone through all of these requirements. And doctors are the same general structure. If someone says they're a medical doctor, you know they passed formal medical exams, are licensed to practice medicine, are governed by a central regulatory body, and went to medical school. There are unfortunately no regulations or restrictions on giving yourself titles in the financial advice industry. As an example, anyone can call himself or herself any combination of these words on the left with the other words on the right. So, without any licenses or required education or experience, I can call myself a financial advisor, financial planner, financial consultant, wealth advisor, wealth specialist, retirement strategist, retirement associate, and so forth. So, pay no attention to what financial professionals call themselves because it basically means nothing. For consistency's sake though, I'll use the term financial advisor throughout this video. But again, keep in mind that name in and of itself means nothing. The next thing to understand about the financial advice industry is that it's much more than just investments. Many people think a financial advisor is one and the same as an investment manager. Now, while investment management is indeed important, it's just one of many very important parts of a financial life. Some of the other critically important aspects of financial advising are giving recommendations and advice on taxes, insurance, estate planning, retirement, college funding, housing, healthcare, budgeting, and employee benefits. Now, depending what stage of life you're in, not all of these things will apply to you, but still, you can see that real financial advice is much more than just picking investments. Now, stepping back a bit, in order to better appreciate all the differences within the financial advice industry, it helps to understand where financial advice originated. For better or worse, the financial advice industry has historically had a very strong sales culture behind it. This is because financial advice essentially started as a sales tool for commissioned life insurance agents. Insurance sales have been around for a long time. Selling life insurance used to be a pretty straightforward process, and the sales pitch was relatively easy. Agents used to walk door to door, ask to talk to the man of the house, and ask him if he loved his family. Obviously, he would say yes. The next question would be, well, then what do you want to protect them if something were to happen to you? Again, obviously he would say yes. An insurance policy is then sold, done. Over time, the simple door-to-door sales pitch began to lose impact, or it didn't work as well for more complex products. So in order to find other ways to sell stuff, salespeople began learning more about prospects' broader financial lives to uncover additional sales opportunities. And this change in sales process wasn't limited to just the insurance industry. The securities brokerage industry began to similarly broaden their sales and advice processes to generate additional commission sales of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and so forth. This is where financial advice started, digging into people's financial lives to find areas that could be improved by selling them some kind of financial product. Now, was that really advice per se? Sort of. It was advice, but advice borne by and attached to a sales pitch. This is why a lot of the financial advisory world is still so salesy, because of the origins of how financial advice came to be in the first place. Thankfully, the industry is slowly getting away from its product sales roots, but unfortunately there's still a very strong sales culture at many financial firms, particularly the large household name insurance, brokerage, and banking firms. Pure investment managers have been their own standalone industry for a long time. I'd say modern day formal investment management started with the passing of the Federal Investment Advisors Act of 1940. Investment management has historically been separate from insurance and security sales companies. But investment managers also realized over time that both they and their clients could benefit from offering a broader array of financial advisory services above and beyond just picking investments. So investment advisors also began providing wider scopes of services and advice beyond just investment management. This was also part of the birth of the financial advice industry. Now fast forward to today in 2020. Giving standalone financial advice is thankfully developing into its own profession. It's becoming less tied to product sales and investment management. While product sales is still the backbone of many financial firms, particularly insurance companies, many firms are trying to transition their business models to focus more on real advisory services instead of just selling product. Because financial advice is not tied to a single type of company, business, or product, there is unfortunately no standardization in various aspects of the industry. I'll go over each of these in more detail in the next slides, but there's no standardization in titles, like we already discussed, regulation, standard of care, which means do financial advisors only need to act in a manner which is suitable for clients, or do they need to act as fiduciaries, which means always acting in the client's best interest. And there is also no standardization in product or service offerings, methods of compensation, or required minimum levels of education, experience, or credentials. This is the opposite of professions like lawyers, as discussed before, because if someone says they're a lawyer, you know what that title means. You know they're under the same regulations. You know they always have to act in your best interest. You know what services they offer. You know how they're compensated. And you know that they have achieved certain levels of testing, experience, and education. With financial advisors, unless you do your research into the advisor and his or her company beforehand, you don't know, or you can't assume any of these things. But thankfully, there is increasing momentum in the industry to better standardize at least some of these areas. The main reason why there is such a lack of standardization across the financial advice industry is because there are three very different sets of regulations under which financial advisors can be regulated. And this is largely because financial advice didn't start as its own standalone industry. Instead, as discussed, it started in three very different lines of business: insurance sales, security sales, and investment advisors. So it's still attached to and regulated by those three lines of business independently. Anyone can give you a stock tip or tell you what they think you should do with your 401k after you retire, but that doesn't make them a financial advisor. I'm sure lots of friends and relatives will be happy to give their opinion about what personal finances you should do. But unless they are getting paid for their advice, they're not actually in the business of giving financial advice. That's the difference. Once you're getting compensated for giving financial advice, you need to be regulated because you're considered to be in the business. In order to give financial advice for compensation, an advisor needs to be licensed or registered in at least one of three ways, or in a combination of any of these three. The first are insurance agents. They're regulated at the state level by each state's respective insurance commission. First and foremost, insurance agents are in the business of selling insurance products. The financial advice they give can only be incidental to the sale of insurance products. What does this actually mean? It means, for example, If you are just looking to pay someone for a few hours of their time to tell you how you should invest some inheritance you just received, you can't go to an insurance agent and offer to pay him or her for a few hours of advice. Under their regulations, the agent can only give advice like that if it's incidental to them selling you an insurance product. So sure, the agent may be happy to work with you and give you guidance, but that guidance kind of has to be in the context of how one of their insurance products could be a solution to your inherited money. That's what it means for advice to be incidental to the sale of insurance products. The second form of regulation is for securities brokers. Unlike insurance agents who are regulated by the various states in which they operate, securities brokers are regulated nationally by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA. Securities brokers sell securities, which are things like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You may have heard of some advisors having certain licenses like the Series 7. Those are securities sales licenses governed by FINRA. Similar to insurance agents' abilities to give you financial advice, the financial advice given by securities brokers can also only be incidental to the sale of their products. The third form of regulation is for investment advisors or investment managers. Investment advisors often get confused with securities brokers because they both deal with investments. The difference is investment advisors don't actually sell securities. Instead, they advise you on which securities you should invest in. If you choose to invest in a particular security based on an investment advisor's recommendation, you would then separately need to use a securities broker to actually buy that security. That's the difference. Investment advisors are regulated nationally by the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC. Unless their total assets under management are below $100 million, in which case they're regulated at the state level by each state's respective Bureau of Securities or similar agency. For all intents and purposes, all financial advisors will be regulated in one of these three ways: as insurance agents, as security brokers, or as investment advisors. But here's where things start to get a little complicated. Advisors could be regulated in all three ways, meaning they're able to sell insurance products, and able to sell securities, and able to provide investment management. Hold that thought, I'll come back to that in a bit. There are also different standards of care amongst the three different forms of advisors. A standard of care is basically the level of diligence and appropriateness the advisor needs to exhibit when conducting business with clients. The first standard of care is suitability, which means the advisor is required to act in the best interest of his or her company. The advice and recommendations given to the client only need to be quote-unquote suitable. In order to be suitable, a product or recommendation basically needs to not be blatantly harmful to you, the client. It has to meet most or all of your needs, but it doesn't have to be in your best interest. There may be many other alternatives that could be better or cheaper, but so long as a product or recommendation isn't egregiously bad for you, it's probably suitable. Think about going to buy a new car at a dealer for one of the major US car companies. If you say you want something small, fuel efficient, and good for commuting long distances, you would expect the salesperson shouldn't be trying to sell you their largest SUV. That would be clearly the opposite of what your needs are. But you know they will probably try to upsell you on more options and bells and whistles than you need because they get paid more money for that. And you also know the salesperson isn't going to recommend you instead go buy a car from one of the large Japanese manufacturers, even if that other car is better and cheaper. So long as the car the salesperson sells you is suitable for you and your needs, the standard of care has been met. The other standard of care is that of a fiduciary, which means the advisor is required to act in the client's best interest, placing the client's interest above those of the advisor or the advisor's company. Going back to the car example, if the salesperson knows that the car from the Japanese competitor better suits your needs and is cheaper, the salesperson is legally required to advise you to buy the Japanese car instead, even though that recommendation is obviously not in the best interest of the salesperson. Basically, under the fiduciary standard, an advisor's recommendation to you can't just be good enough. It needs to be truly in your best interest. Under their respective regulations, both insurance agents and securities brokers are held to a suitability standard. On the other hand, investment advisor regulations hold investment advisors to a fiduciary standard. Riveting stuff, I know. But that's it for part 1 of how to find a financial advisor. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Be sure to check out parts 2 and part 3. You won't want to miss all the other good info and search tools provided in the next 2 videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.